Простые предложения с правильными глаголами 1901-2000. На этом уроке мы завершаем важную тему изучения 2000 правильных глаголов. Далее мы предлагаем познакомиться с многозначными глаголами, которые вызывают значительные трудности при общении с носителями языка. Эти упражнения помогут вам быстро освоить эту сложную и важную тему. Подписывайтесь, ставьте лайки и пишите комментарии, и мы будем рады ответить на ваши вопросы и пожелания. In this lesson, we conclude the important topic of learning 2000 regular verbs. Next, we'll introduce polysemantic verbs, which can cause significant difficulties when communicating with native speakers. These exercises will help you quickly master this complex and important topic. Subscribe, like, and comment, and we'll be happy to answer your questions and suggestions. Real practice has shown that only repeated repetition of the lesson allows the material to be fixed in long-term memory. It is useless to study grammar before you have mastered basic conversational skills. Skills are achieved only through repeated repetition to the point of memorization. Therefore, regular classes, repeated repetition allowed, and text reproduction are necessary. Repeat the lesson at least 10 times over 3 days. It will only take 4 hours, and you will quickly master the material perfectly. Subscribe and like us to support us and not miss the next lessons. He administers the company's finances efficiently. She acknowledged receiving the formal invitation. He allocated resources efficiently across departments. The manager amended the outdated company policy. The lawyer clarified the terms of the agreement.
They cultivated strong relationships with investors. The teacher encouraged her students to question ideas. The team expanded operations to several new regions. They have implemented a new data protection policy. The journalist investigated the issue thoroughly.
The judge has justified his decision with strong arguments. The musician mastered the technique perfectly. The writer mentioned the event briefly in his memoirs. The company restored the damaged data files. The engineer simulated the conditions digitally.
They strengthened their argument with evidence. The scientist validated the results independently. The manager verified the accuracy of the figures. The group addressed the problem effectively. The student compared different literary styles.
The analyst evaluated the data objectively. The editor simplified the sentence structure. The scientists utilized advanced analytical tools. The architect widened the main corridor. The teacher wrapped up the lesson smoothly.
The manager yielded control to his assistant. The mechanics lubricated the engine components regularly. The engineers reinforced the wing structure for durability. The workers welded the metal plates seamlessly. The programmers implemented a dynamic caching system.
The developers debugged the program after deployment. The crew maintained the vessel during rough weather. The programmers encrypted user data for protection. The technicians installed fiber optic cables in the lab. The crew secured the cargo before departure.
The programmers compiled the source code successfully. The shipbuilders coated the hull with anti-corrosion paint. The developers refactored legacy code for efficiency. The electricians grounded the entire power system. The developers validated the encryption mechanism.
The engineers upgraded the propulsion module last month. The developers compressed large data files efficiently. The developers migrated the platform to new servers. The programmers refined the AI recognition module. The developers compiled user feedback for the update.
They smelted iron ore in blast furnaces. Workers alloy metals to improve strength. They cast molten steel into molds. The foundry workers poured aluminum carefully. The factory processed scrap into new steel.
The workers ground the surface smooth. The miners drilled a new ventilation hole. The farmer raised cattle for meat production. The vet treated the injured horse. The shepherd herded sheep to the hills.
Farmers sheared sheep once a year. They bricked the wall quickly and neatly. The crew plastered the interior walls. They tiled the bathroom floor. They insulated the walls for better heat.
The welder has properly welded the steel beams together. The rancher branded his cattle last month. The mold makers have carefully casted the molten iron. They have already riveted the panels securely. They temper the steel for strength.
Workers have raked the dry hay together. Builders framed the wooden roof. Miners have blasted the wall with explosives. Farmers sheared the sheep in May. They slaughtered pigs before winter.
Farmers bred horses for transport. Technicians have soldered the copper wires neatly. Workers etched the metal layers chemically. Engineers deposited thin films atom by atom. The researcher has isolated the invariant property of the system.
The researchers correlated two independent variables. The proof eliminated any hidden contradictions. The team partitioned the data into subsets. We estimated the margin of error precisely. We adjusted parameters to reach equilibrium.
He quantified uncertainty mathematically. They derived formulas using symbolic computation. They categorized transformations by their symmetry. They clarified the difference between syntax and meaning. We refined our interpretation for precision.
The algorithm iterates until the solution converges. The data were rescaled to ensure numerical stability. The algorithm decomposed the matrix into orthogonal components. They decluttered the living room before hosting the guests. We reupholstered the old chair instead of buying a new one.
We refurbished the basement to create a small workshop. They propagated the currents by planting leaf cuttings. They realigned the door hinges to make it close properly. She varnished the wooden floor to restore its shine. The farmer fertilized the soil to enrich it with essential nutrients.
We trimmed the hedges to maintain a uniform shape. She simmered the sauce until it thickened. He accidentally overcooked the pasta until it became mushy. She garnished the dish with fresh basil leaves. We preserved the berries by turning them into jam.